Why not? I burnt it. First theft, then arson, I thought with a spurt of anger. But I told myself to keep treating her like an insurance company, so, as neutrally as possible, I merely asked, "For what reason?" Her cheek twitched, but I couldn't tell if it was a smile or a wince. "People shouldn't read other people's diaries." "Your mother must have read it, and so must you to decide which page to send me." No answer. Try another tack. "By the way, how did that sentence continue? You know the one, 'So, for instance, if Tony.'" A shrug and a frown. "People shouldn't read other people's diaries," she repeated. "But you can read this if you like." She pulled an envelope from her raincoat pocket, handed it to me, turned, and walked off. When I got home, I checked through my sent emails, and of course, I'd never asked for a meeting. Well, not in so many words, anyway. I remembered my initial reaction to seeing the phrase "blood money" on my screen. I'd said to myself, but nobody got killed. I'd just been thinking about Veronica and me. I hadn't considered Adrian. Another thing I realized, there was a mistake, or a statistical anomaly, in Margaret's theory of clear-edged versus mysterious women, or rather in the second part of it, about men being attracted to either one sort or the other. I'd been attracted to both Veronica and Margaret. I remember a period in late adolescence when my mind would make itself drunk with images of adventurousness. This is how it will be when I grow up. I shall go there, do this, discover that, love her, and then her, and her, and her. I shall live as people in novels live and have lived. Which ones I was not sure, only that passion and danger, ecstasy and despair, but then more ecstasy, would be in attendance. However, who said that thing about the littleness of life that art exaggerates? There was a moment in my late 20s when I admitted that my adventurousness had long since petered out. I would never do those things adolescents had dreamt about. Instead, I mowed my lawn, I took holidays, I had my life. But time. How time first grounds us and then confounds us. We thought we were being mature when we were only being safe. We imagined we were being responsible, but were only being cowardly. What we called realism turned out to be a way of avoiding things rather than facing them. Time. Give us enough time, and our best supported decisions will seem wobbly, our certainties whimsical. I didn't open the envelope Veronica gave me for a day and a half. I waited because I knew she would expect me not to wait, to have my thumb at the flap before she was out of sight. But I knew the envelope was hardly likely to contain what I wanted. For instance, the key to a left luggage locker where I would find Adrian's diary. At the same time, I wasn't convinced by her prim line about not reading other people's diaries. I thought her quite capable of arson to punish me for ancient wrongs and failings, but not in defense of some hastily erected principle of correct behavior. It puzzled me that she had suggested a meeting. Why not use Royal Mail and so avoid an encounter which she clearly found distasteful? Why this face-to-face? Because she was curious to set eyes on me again after all these years, even if it made her shudder? I rather doubted it. I ran through the 10 minutes or so we had spent in one another's company. The location, the change of location, the anxiety to be gone from both, what was said and what was unsaid. Eventually I came up with a theory. If she didn't need the meeting for what she had done, which was give me the envelope, then she needed it for what she had said, which was that she had burnt Adrian's diary. And why did she have to put that into words by the grey Thames side? Because it was deniable. She didn't want the corroboration of the printed-out email. If she could falsely assert that I was the one who'd asked for a meeting, it wouldn't be a stretch for her to deny that she had ever admitted arson. Having arrived at this tentative explanation, I waited until the evening, had my supper, poured an extra glass of wine and sat down with the envelope. It didn't have my name on it, perhaps more evidence of deniability. Of course I didn't give it to him, nor did I even meet him. He's just an email pest, a fantasist, a bald cyber-stalker. I could tell from the band of grey shading to black round the edge of the first page that here was another photocopy. What was it with her? Did she never deal in authentic documents? Then I noticed the date at the top and the handwriting. My own, as it used to be all those years ago. Dear Adrian, the letter began. I read it through, got to my feet, took my glass of wine, poured it rather splashily back into the bottle, and made myself a very large whiskey. How often do we tell our own life story? How often do we adjust, embellish, make sly cuts? And the longer life goes on, the fewer are those around to challenge our account, to remind us that our life is not our life, merely the story we have told about our life, told to others, but mainly to ourselves. Dear Adrian, or rather, Dear Adrian and Veronica, hello, bitch, and welcome to this letter. Well, you certainly deserve one another, and I wish you much joy. I hope you get so involved that the mutual damage will be permanent. I hope you regret the day I introduced you, and I hope that when you break up, as you inevitably will, I give you 6 months, which your shared pride will extend to a year, all the better for fucking you up, says I. You are left with a lifetime of bitterness that will poison your subsequent relationships. Part of me hopes you'll have a child, because I'm a great believer in time's revenge, yea, unto the next generation and the next, see great art. But revenge must be on the right people, i.e. you two, and you're not great art, just a cartoonist's doodle. So I don't wish you that. It would be unjust to inflict on some innocent fetus the prospect of discovering that it was the fruit of your loins, if you'll excuse the poeticism. So keep rolling the Durex onto his spindly cock, Veronica, or perhaps you haven't let him go that far yet. Still, enough of the courtesies. I have just a few precise things to say to each of you. Adrian, you already know she's a cock-teaser, of course, though I expect you told yourself she was engaged in a struggle with her principles, which you, as a philosopher, would employ your grey cells to help her overcome. If she hasn't let you go all the way yet, I suggest you break up with her, and she'll be round your place with sodden knickers and a 3-pack eager to give it away. But cock-teasing is also a metaphor. She is someone who will manipulate your inner self while holding hers back from you. I leave a precise diagnosis to the Hetringers, which might vary according to the day of the week, and merely note her inability to imagine anyone else's feelings or emotional life. Even her own mother warned me against her. If I were you, I'd check things out with Mum, ask her about damage a long way back. Of course, you'll have to do this behind Veronica's back, because boy is that girl a control freak. Oh, and she's also a snob, as you must be aware, who only took up with you because you were soon to have B.A. Cantab after your name. Remember how much you despised Brother Jack and his posh friends? Is that who you want to run with now? But don't forget, give her time, and she'll look down on you just as she looks down on me. Veronica, interesting, that joint letter. Your malice mixed with his priggishness, quite a marriage of talents. Like your sense of social superiority versus his sense of intellectual superiority. But don't think you can outsmart Adrian as you for a time outsmarted me. I can see your tactics. Isolate him, cut him off from his old friends, make him dependent on you, etc., etc. That might work in the short term, but in the long, it's just a question of whether you can get pregnant before he discovers you're a bore. And even if you do nail him down, you can look forward to a lifetime of having your logic corrected, to breakfast table pedantry and stifled yawns at your airs and graces. I can't do anything to you now, but time can. Time will tell. It always does. Compliments of the season to you, and may the acid rain fall on your joint and anointed heads.